through the presentation, if you can ask questions in the chat to Billy, and I will work on, and sometimes, I don't know if you'll be able to see the chat, Billy, but if I see it, I'll wait for you to have like a pause in what you're saying, and then I'll ask the question. So let me go ahead and introduce you, and then I will turn it over to you. But Billy Grill is a procurement counselor for the Ohio University Procurement Technical Assistance Center in Dayton. He has 15 years of experience in helping clients market to all levels of federal, state, and local governments. His varied roles in business development, marketing, operations, and program management give him a wide skill to assist his clients with. Billy has purposely worked with small businesses throughout his career. He enjoys the challenge of finding creative solutions on a tight budget. He's well aware of the many hats you have to wear to solve problems day in and day out. Yes, we hats off to all small businesses. We really try and support where we can. So Billy, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and tell you I cannot see your slides. I don't think that you're sharing your screen at the moment. All right, and it looks like, Billy, are you frozen? We lost Billy.
He must be having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, he was fun, and then he wasn't. Sharon, do you want to talk briefly, or Jane, about PTAC while we're waiting for Billy to come back?
Sure. For those of you that are not aware of PTACs, we are a procurement technical assistance center. We are funded through federally Defense Logistics Agency, the state of Ohio, and then Ohio University adds matching funds. And we provide our services at no cost to Ohio businesses. So if you're an Ohio business, you should go to our website and look us up and reach out to us if you're not already a client, if we can help you in the government market. We do everything from helping you determine which government market you currently fit in. And again, we work in local, state, and federal. We also help you get registered at the appropriate locations. We also help you figure out what agencies buy your product or service. And we work with you to look at any certifications that you may qualify for. And we can walk you through those certification applications and give you advice, as well as help you complete your registrations as well that we would point you to. One of them being SAM.Gov, which hopefully we're going to hear from Billy on soon. Then we have a bid match system that will daily match your company and what you do against what the government is buying. That's delivered to you each and every day. We do that through using coding and keywords, so we can focus in and hone it in as close as you want it, or leave it out as, to see a bigger picture of what the government's doing. We also work to give you advice and guide you on completing capability statement or creating one, as well as how to reach out to government agencies. We provide trainings, just like hopefully the one we're having here today. And and we partner with SBA. They're a great partner of ours, and we partner with them at least once a month. The last many months, it's been 2 and 3 times a month for wonderful trainings. And then we're here to advise. We can, if you find a solicitation you're interested in, we'll go over it with you if need be. We'll look over your proposal. We don't write them for you, but we certainly can give you advice and guidance on that. And then once you're awarded, afterwards, we can assist with any problems you might be having with your contract. That is kind of in a nutshell all of the things we do. So I'm not seeing Billy signing back on. So he mentioned earlier, he's over in Dayton, and he said they had some storms happening over there. So, oh, here, I think he's coming back in.
So my power just went out, so that was fun.
Okay.
But I didn't mean to scare everybody. We got it covered. It's all a matter of adapting and conquering, right? Thanks for covering for me, Sharon. I appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Without further ado, I mean, should I go ahead and start the slideshow and start moving? All right.
Yes, absolutely. We just talked about PTAC, so you're up next.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay, so I will get this moving without further ado. Always nice to have a little scare there at the beginning of every presentation. Okay, so today's topic matter is SAM.Gov. It's an integrated award environment by GSA. Really, what we're talking about, what has, but also what hasn't changed. A lot of times with some of the former migrations, there's been some unwelcome change and some consternation. And with any change, yeah, there's going to be people that like it and people that don't. But overall, there's going to be some things that I want to foot stomp about the environment as a whole and the resources you have around it. So what we're going to cover is basically what the integrated award environment is, the different domains in the environment, which aren't what you really see domains being referred to in general. These aren't web domains, but they're actually whole legacy systems that have been integrated. We're going to talk about the merger of Beta.SAM and SAM.Gov, and definitely cover the new workspace. You know, it's funny. It seems like every time you just know where the button is, they move it. So we'll cover some of that and at least try to get you familiar with the look and the feel and the new layout. Again, some people are going to like the new layout, some people not so much. But overall, it's here. It's going to stay. Kind of irony about this is they moved to agile development, which is seen as a good thing, but that also means that there's constant change, which isn't seen as a good thing. So we'll definitely cover some help and resources as well. If we have time, I'd love to show you a small demo of the site and kind of give you a quick couple of examples that you can take with you. Always remember that when you are navigating the site, you have resources that you can use if you need help. The PTAC being one of them. I help clients set up SAM.Gov searches all the time. I think that it's, even though they get bid matches from the PTAC, which are a huge value-added service, I want them to have backup searches in the site to cover as much ground as possible, make sure nothing's slipping through the cracks. But also there's things that we can't provide with the bid match that they're getting through the site, like very discrete and granular industry day searches and things of that nature. And that's going to become more important as we do start to transition back into a hybrid work or an in-person type of event space. So we'll cover all of that and more in this presentation. Sharon did a great job of briefing what the PTAC is. The most important thing you'll see is this link here at the bottom to find your local PTAC. And you can read the numbers for yourselves. The PTAC are a great resource no matter what state you're coming from. And if you ever need help locating a PTAC or a referral, don't hesitate to reach out. But they should be one in your area or your state that you can utilize. Again, our mission, the big point here is, you know, that we provide a ton of guidance and advice to our clients Our services are free of charge, although some training events may require a fee. We really don't do a lot of that at the Ohio PTAC, but from state to state, each PTAC differs. One thing I do want to mention about the PTAC is, even though I'm good with the SAM environment, I lean towards federal procurement. I have, bar none, the best team with me. A lot of them are here on this call. So if you need help with state and local, if you need help with GSA, if you need help with certifications, there's no way one consultant can know all of that. So the importance of being backed by just a stellar team is really what makes us grind here in Ohio. So just know that you have one of the best teams assembled here to help you with a myriad of things. So on to the integrated award environment. I like this slide because it tells you more of the why. Why are all these changes being implemented? And they have a great point here about reducing barriers and increasing transparency. They also want to reduce the reporting burden, which is always a problem in the government space. And anytime you can reduce that burden, then that's a good thing. But it also delivers that framework for conducting government business. So no matter if it's a past award, upcoming award, wage determinations, there's that information there, and it's in a certain format, and it's publicized because of a certain mandate. So they're really building this environment to enhance doing work with the federal government. So what is it? Really, it's a collection of legacy systems. And I've worked with a lot of these. I'm probably dating myself a little bit, but back to the old FBO and back to some of the old OCR systems. It's basically Orca, things of that nature, but they're bringing them into a modern environment, which is important because modernization in the government space is a huge initiative. But it should also make doing business easier with the government as a whole. And here are just some numbers. I like these numbers because it just shows you the gravity of the environment as a whole. 5 million plus monthly transactions, 1.1 trillion federal awards annually, and these numbers are going to go up. I can see the different executed searches on a monthly basis as more people get used to the environment and more people really start utilizing it as a tool in their tool set. Because that's really what this is. This isn't an end-all be-all to your government information, but it's a tool in your tool set that you should be using along with many other tools to give you the best and most timely information in order to bid on government opportunities. The domains that I was talking about are really these systems here, highlighted in red. And we'll go over each one in a little bit more detail. But what you need to know is the new design change. They're right there on the home page for you to access. Another good note is that each domain has its own set of help. So I'll show you some of that here later. But these are everything from the old FBO, and they'll name them, was FBO, was CFDA. It's all there right at your fingertips from the homepage. And I did a little bit of mapping here. Contract opportunities was once FBO. When they migrated it, I know a lot of people still prefer FBO. Really, they went towards a more unstructured search using keywords a lot more than fields. So it takes some getting used to. But the fact of the matter is, any opportunity over $25,000 is going to be posted there. So it's something that you need to get used to, or you need to get help with setting up your searches and setting up your follows, your different downloads and things like that. Another note here is that FPDS is still very much in use. Actually, I use it almost daily. The contract data piece, the reporting piece is what is now in SAM.Gov. Which is also a very useful tool in your tool set. So the contract opportunities domain, it's really, based to search for federal opportunities over $25,000. Even if you have an opportunity in Unison or DIBS, if it's over 25K, it will at least be noted here. It's where you can do advanced searches. They've really made some good progress in improving their advanced search. I think they've made some good changes in this last iteration. The thing to note is they're always accepting feedback to make even more changes. So if you don't like something, there's a way to affect change in the system. But I also really like searching for industry days and small business events. I don't think enough people really utilize this tool as a way to connect more. It's a good way to stay plugged in and really know what's going on. It will run through some of this search criteria. I don't want to bore you with a bullet by bullet rundown of what's available to search. Hopefully we'll have some time at the end for a demo. But what you need to know is your search criteria really hasn't changed from the last iteration of Beta.SAM.gov. They actually did the design change in April before merging SAM.gov and Beta.SAM.gov. So if you were familiar with the search before, then you should be familiar with it now. That being said, there are some benefits, there are some upgrades. For example, they're doing a little bit better with their organization, their federal organizations now. They are doing a lot better with their place of performance. The place of performance used to default to zip code, which I don't know why or who, but I don't know of anybody that searches just by zip code. So now you have zip in state, and you can also search multiple states at a time, which is important because if you're a regional company, you can now set up one single search for Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Kentucky, instead of having to have separate searches based on each state and running them concurrently. You have additional filters here. Honestly, I rarely use them. I do actually use the last filter to search for active and inactive opportunities. And why I say that is because if I have a recompete and somebody's left the old opportunity on SAM.gov, then I'm going to search by inactive to try to find that old opportunity to glean as much information for the recompete as I can. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. But you use that in conjunction with your FPDS search. You use it in conjunction with your USA spending searches. So again, this is a tool, singular tool in your tool belt. Although this domain now has multiple tools inside of it. The contract data domain. This is really the FPDS reporting version. So what they're doing now is they're separating static, standard, ad hoc, and administrative reports. It's where you're getting your information on past awards. The change is now you must be signed in for every report except for your static reports. But even your static reports are useful. They have COVID-19 reports, they have golden reports, they have reports that are really general, but really useful. So don't overlook the contract data domain when you're utilizing this tool. The number one thing you're going to realize when using the new SAM.gov is you're going to want to have your login.gov sign in, because there's a ton of capability that is now behind that sign in that you're going to want to use. And they did that for a reason. They're really doing that to protect data. And that's important because you want to have authoritative data in the system that's protected. So they're blocking and keeping otherwise nefarious sources out. So I know it's annoying. I have to use my login.gov, double authenticate about 16 times a day. And it's, sometimes it bugs you, but it's necessary. It's a necessary evil. It's the world we live in, and I applaud them for So the reporting function, just to kind of go into detail a little bit more on this. Users who created and ran ad hoc reports in FPDS before January 31st, they were able to convert these reports into Beta.SAM, now SAM. If you created them after January 31st, you would have to redo them. So if you're wanting to know more about how to create that ad hoc reporting function, there's a ton of resource and training videos out there. You also have resources like us that you can use and ask questions to. And here's the additional training. The Federal Service Desk is your help desk for the SAM.gov environment. While it's implemented by the GSA, Federal Service Desk is your help desk, and they have a huge knowledge base. And I'll give more resources on that a little bit later. But they have training videos, they have user guides, they have quick start guides. So if ever in trouble, that's always the first place where I'll go. And you can see right here on the contract data page, they'll have part 1, part 2, part 3, different trainings on setting up that reporting capability. And really what it goes down into is your static reports are going to be your general high-level reports. Your standard reports are getting a little bit more granular. Then you have your ad hoc reporting, which is where you're building based on your elements to suit your needs. And here's just some of the different objects and attributes you can search for. This link is really helpful. It's an ad hoc reports reference guide. Again, it's a Federal Service Desk resource, but you can start drilling down into value, obligations, just all kinds of great attributes to give you back the detailed reporting that you need on past awards. Wage determination is it's something you're going to want to use if you're construction, service. You're definitely going to want to utilize this because most of your contracts are going to mandate it. It's a pretty cool, nifty, simple tool. You'll see this is just some kind of legalese over who uses the service contract and who uses Davis-Bacon. And everything I do here, I've sourced. So if you're looking for a deeper dive, if you want some light reading, you're more than welcome to jump down those rabbit holes. But it's pretty basic. It's going to give you your city, your county, your construction type, previously performed. You can search based on keywords. And it gives you back this wage determination listing, prevailing wages. And so if you're doing anything in those industries, having this tool handy is definitely, it's helpful and necessary when you're bidding work. And again, if you have questions, I've known of clients that have had trouble finding specific locations for some rates. Never hesitate to reach out to your local PTAC. We're more than happy to sit down, run through some of the search with you. No matter what the question may be around it. The federal hierarchy domain. I think they're trying with this domain. In the big scheme of things, I know the thought process behind it. They wanted to give as much organizational information to you as possible. Even with this change, I find it lacking. And that's, to no fault of GSA or anybody else, because the federal organization is so vast, and it's got so much information associated with each different subunit, and I mean it's just a huge undertaking. What I find for my alternative resource is USAspending.gov. They have, I think right now, 100 plus different agencies. And you can see a quick screenshot. It gives you the budget, it gives you strategy, it gives you websites. So again, another tool for you to utilize when you're looking at potential targets for your business development organization. And I utilize this tool to look at a lot of their budget justification, budget data, just to make sure that what I'm targeting is an actual opportunity, because a requirement without funding is not an opportunity. In order to have an opportunity, you need a requirement and funding. So it's always nice to know that your customer has money. But there's also great documents on their strategy as well. We had a great speaker a week or so ago, Jeff Malott with AFMC, and he was stating something I think was very pertinent, that if you're going to want to do business with a customer, you want to know their strategy, you want to know their strategic objectives, you want to know what their priorities are, and this is a great resource for some of that. The assistance listings domain is a little bit different than what you guys are probably thinking. For business grants, things of that nature, you're going to grants.gov still. That's not a part of this environment. But assistance listings are things like small business development centers or the PTAC. So you have those broader level grants that are given to larger organizations. But for instance, if I am going to look to submit a response to an RFP for the Dayton Development Coalition, I may want to look up the funding grant that the Dayton Development Coalition is using to fund that RFP. And that's going to give me an inside track as to what they can and can't do, what some of their metrics and quals are. And it gives me that extra investigative step that may separate me from the competition in order to win that RFP. So if you're in that space of working with those kinds of organizations, it's a great tool to use. It gives you some really pertinent information there. The merger. This was done not just all of a sudden. This merger was a while in the making. They always intended to take the beta off the name. They always intended to have one complete SAM.gov environment. There's going to be good and bad. I know when we first started using the system after the merger, I was walking a client through a SAM registration, and we got all the way through to the review page, and it kicked us back out. So the good news was it saved the search, but at the same time, there's going to be expected bugs. And that's actually why, if you have a SAM registration that's due, and it's in the frequently asked questions section of this, but I'll just note it now. You may actually have a 180-day extension on your SAM registration because of this merger. They know there's going to be bugs and some hiccups in a merger of this size. The important thing is that they've learned from their previous lessons, and they're now preparing for those. And if the best
Looks like we lost Billy again. I know that he was having some trouble with his power. We'll just give it a couple of minutes. Okay. I think it took him like 5 minutes to come back on before, or less.
Sorry, I forgot I was muted.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, hopefully he'll be back.
Mhm. I know we're starting to get storms here too. I don't know if he still has them in Dayton.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably still does, or
This wouldn't have happened, right?
exactly. I think he said he lost power. So I was guessing maybe it either came back or they have an alternate power source. I think he said he was over at the one of the one of the work areas there in Dayton. Can't remember the name of the building that he's at, but
at the one on Indian Ripple.
No, it's the one downtown. It used to be the 444 building, I think.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that. I know about the Entrepreneur Center in downtown Dayton. That's on Monument Avenue. That's where the SBDC is. But yeah, okay, someone did text we're experiencing thunderstorms in the Dayton area. Okay.
Maybe it'd be a good time to open it up to any questions that folks might have.
Sure. Someone did ask me about the training being available, the recording of being available. So yes, it will be. I put the Ohio University PTAC website in the chat, and not only our presentation from today, which we'll post next week, but we also have our recordings from prior trainings there too. So it's fairly easy to find. Once you're on the OU PTAC website, there's a tools/links drop down, and then it'll link you to the prior trainings. But it takes about 5 days. Is that correct? To post?
Yeah, it just depends on how quickly our IT people can get to it. It takes a good day for the recording to get processed. And, then once that's processed, then we send it over and they get it as soon as they can.
There is a question in the chat. We've been on SAM.gov for several years because of the mergers. It recommended to go and update the registrations due to the recent changes.
Hey guys, I'm back through cell phone, so I may be a little spotty or
okay.
out one more time. If you want, we can yeah, I can have somebody run the slides and I can just run them on my end and hit the content.
Sharon, do you have the slides?
Yeah, Billy, did you send me those slides?
Yeah, I sent them to the whole team probably a couple weeks ago.
I can look. Are you going to look for them, Sharon, or I can on mine?
Yeah, I'm looking.
Okay. But I'm sorry, Sharon. Okay, there was a question, Billy. Because of the merger, do people have to recertify in SAM? The question was, we've been on SAM for a few years. And then I was hoping for a deep dive today on the role assignment functionality and how it's supposed to work. How to resolve issues.
Your active status and your registration in SAM, it feeds over. There shouldn't be any change in your due date, your active status, anything of that nature. That being said, if you had I believe it was a renew date that coincided with the merger, and I believe that was after May 24th, they gave you an extension. Now, the best way to check that is you can actually go into SAM.gov and search your entity registration, and it will tell you when your next registration due date is. So there's a way, and there's a way that we can do it on our end as well, is search your registration on SAM.gov. Now, in order to search your entity registration, you do now need a login with login.gov. It's no longer just an open search. There's other resources you can try to use, but the authoritative data source is going to be SAM.gov.
We have another question. What are the advantages of setting up a search in SAM directly yourself versus using the PTAC bid opportunity system?
Well, that's a great question. We supply a great value-added service with the PTAC bid match services, and we can get pretty granular in those search criteria. But if I'm setting up, if I have my bid matches, I may also want to go in and categorize my own SAM searches. So, for instance, if I'm doing artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, I may want 3 different buckets of searches, one for each of those, so that I'm targeting discrete customers and I'm targeting discrete capability. And I'm also targeting the pre-solicitation stages, like the sources sought and pre-solicitation stages. But also I'm targeting industry day events. So I'm setting up different discrete searches based on my capabilities to make sure that nothing is falling through the cracks, but also to make sure that I'm sending out that information to my data scientist for the analytics. I'm sending it out to my lead programmer for the machine learning. I'm forwarding that information or getting those people in my organization to have that information set up so that everybody's getting the right information at the right time. BidMatch is a great tool, and it's something the PTAC provides. It's a great value to our clients. But again, it's one tool in your toolkit. In order to have a robust business development organization within your company, you want to have as much information, as much timely information at your fingertips as possible in an organized manner. So utilizing SAM to do that and other resources as well, I think is the best practice.
Speaking.
Jane,
I will be there.
Jane, you're unmuted. Okay, and the other thing I wanted to add to what Billy just said is that the PTAC bid match includes not just federal opportunities, but state and local and city and county. So if you are trying to do business with other levels of government, there are opportunities there as well. But I also highly recommend that you keep the line of communication open with your PTAC counselor, because when the bid match is first set up, it may not be perfect. There's going to be things that you need to filter out based on the keywords that were used. If it's not a good use of your time because of the broad categories of solicitations you're seeing, get back in touch with your PTAC counselor and refine the bid match. It can be done.
It's an organic search. So it should change over time with your company. And the more we learn about your organization, the better we can make your search.
And we do have the training back up, Billy. There's one more question that I think is also relevant before I can be back on the slides. And Sharon, what slide number is this so he can be on the right page?
I see it. It's assistance listings.
Oh, you see it. Okay, yeah. I didn't know you could see it.
Got you covered. The wiles of technology. At least the good thing is I charged my phone last night, so we're cooking with some oil now.
Oh,
We're-
okay. So you're actually seeing the slides on your phone. I'm trying to imagine what you're.
Yep,
Oh,
I am.
that's okay. Awesome.
Even I'm briefing from the dark, but we can get through it.
Okay. Here's the question. Agency acronyms. The agency acronyms that appear are very important in searches. For example, USAF, SBDC. Is there a list or glossary of different acronyms on the website we can use to key in searches?
Oh, I mean, great story about that. When I first started with the Green Tree Group many moons ago, they gave me a 2,000 row Excel spreadsheet to learn of acronyms. I don't think that's useful anymore. My suggestion is to learn the verbiage and the acronym soup of your client. Now I know that, okay, how do you do that, right? And that goes back to looking at their strategies, looking at their different objectives, contacting the small business office at the different agencies and reaching out to them. You're going to want to learn some of that tribal knowledge. For instance, if I'm searching U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, you can type in U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but you can also type in U.S. ACE. You can type in Louisville District, Huntington District, Great Lakes District. So having that local knowledge of the different acronyms they use and the verbiage they use, that's important in search as well. And how you can get there is really taking the time to do some investigative work, but also connect with your client or your prospect, and reach out to the different resources you have available at those agencies. And that's something else that we help you do when you develop your capability statement. That's your handshake. That's your one-page opening of the door to say, hey, this is me. Let's form a relationship. Let's have coffee, what have you. So you use that document like a sword. You wield it, and you try to make relationships with these organizations in order to better learn that verbiage. And there's also your local PTAC. For instance, I probably know a lot more of the acronym soup at Right Pat than somebody out of the West Virginia PTAC who would know the Huntington District of the Corps a lot better than me, and utilizing those localized resources. So there's no good one way or one sheet. I think it's an amalgamation of different resources.
Very good. I think that, and then the other thing I would add is once as a company, you get to know who your federal customer is, you can find out the acronyms for that specific agency. But when you're just getting started, it's hard to know which one to start with. So meeting with your PTAC, they can help you identify like who your primary 3 federal customers would be, and then learn the acronyms for those as a starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. It looks like you're good to go to continue.
Perfect. Next slide, Sharon. We'll go to the merger. Okay, so really the merger is meant to incorporate the SAM.Gov, not just the overall URL, but the whole SAM.Gov registration system. So it's really pulling in your contract reporting, your buyer performance reporting, pulling in a whole new workspace. I mean, it's a monumental change that they went through in May. But there's also a new login requirement to do certain searches. There's a lot of security a lot of security that's been thought out through the website as well now. And if you want, there's a little handy dandy link at the bottom. Again, Federal Service Desk resource to give you a before and after comparison. Really, it's night and day. They based the new design off of best practices. It's supposed to make things easier to get to. I know that some of us, especially heavy users like myself, they use the site every day. We were a little thrown off when it first happened. I had some previous knowledge, but I know a lot of people that were sending emails. Okay, where's this button now? And hopefully I can get you through some of that today, using the workspace and realizing where things are now, which is it's a fairly significant change. Next slide, Chair. So these are just some basic frequently asked questions. Again, the annual renewal point that I wanted to make, they will give you, or they automatically give you a 180-day extension. Now, I don't trust anything, especially since if you want to get paid by the federal government, you have to have an active status in SAM. So I would reach out to your PTAC counselor, or if you're savvy enough with the system, go in and search your entity and make sure that it does indeed give you that renewal date that's 180 out. If not, then you need to hop in and renew. The other question I like here is, will notifications of contract opportunity established searches be improved, more like FBO in the future? And they say yes. This is great because I think that's one of the things people miss the most about federal business opportunities is the emails we used to get daily were so detailed. We knew a quick description, we had links, we had all this information right in our email inbox, and we could quickly sift through it and quickly get to the info we needed. Whereas though right now it's still just a link back to the site that we got to then scroll through. So the good news is that they're at least improving that, or thoughts to improve it, which is, that's a good thing. All part of that, provide them feedback, and they'll be able to, to make changes based on that. And then will I have to register as an entity if you already have an account? If you have an entity that you're already tied to, SAM.gov was already using login.gov. So all of that ports over. There shouldn't be anything you have to do on your side. It's a matter of just utilizing the system. And then if you have trouble, you can always contact us or contact your federal service desk. Next slide, Chair. These are basically more facts, and you guys can kind of read through these. I won't go through each one. I'll try to hit the high points. Basically, all your data should port over seamlessly. Now, we've heard that story before, so sometimes there may be a bug here or there. But for the most part, your data should be okay. The issue with the UEI, the new unique identifier, I don't think we're going to have to worry about that until next year, 2022. So for now, if you're registering a new entity, yes, you will still use DUNS. And they have started to generate your unique entity identifier. And I have actually seen one instance where it's been requested. But overall, there shouldn't be anything you need to do on your behalf to generate that number, other than the fact if you need to get to it and you need to know it, then you can search your entity on SAM, or you can have help from one of your friendly local neighborhood PTACs. Next question, Sharon, or next slide, I'm sorry. So how do we search a DUNS number in the new SAM? Basically, you need to be signed in now. That's going to be the big change. There's no quick search available. You need to sign in and then go to your entity registrations. That's going to be the big change that people will take some getting used to. Why is the DUNS number being replaced? I just kind of like this little bit of trivia. It's actually due to an amendment in the Federal Acquisition Regulation.
Billy, you're kind of
requiring
in
a
and out.
non-proprietary to be used. So it's actually a change to the far, like me. But other than that, is that better?
Yes. Your last
Okay.
sentence was clear.
Okay, I'll try to. I talk with my hands. That's the big issue now, Jill.
No problem.
So we'll keep going through. But yes, so the DUNS number is replaced because of a federal acquisition regulation amendment, which requires a non-proprietary identifier to be used. So I thought that was interesting. It wasn't just kind of willy-nilly. There's actually an amendment to the FAR, which is kind of a big deal. So next slide, Sharon. This is something that's going to be new. It's not mandatory yet, but they're expecting it to be. They are requesting verification of your identity when you come in to manage an entity. It's only for entity administrators. It's optional at this time, but I know there's already consternation about it. Their take on it is that they have digitized, encrypted, and matched your login.gov identification verification as an extra level of protection per the NIST standards. So they're saying, yay, verily, this is secure. I know there's going to be a lot of pushback on this. At the time, it's not mandatory, so we'll see where it goes. But just want to give you kind of a preview, a heads up that may be mandatory in the future to be an entity administrator. There's arguments on both sides that I won't get into, but this is just meant as a kind of a preview of what's to come. Next slide, Sharon. So this is the basic screenshot merger. We went from the old SAM.gov to this is the new and improved. Next slide. This is a slide that I like because it's showing you the integration status. So you can see we're not near done. They've got in the systems they currently do, but they're also looking at other systems. I do find it interesting that FPDS is all the way out in the grade area of planned. I think that speaks a lot to the utility of the current FPDS next generation. But also I think it speaks a lot to some of the potential issues they foresee they may have. But overall, this is a great updated integration chart and showing you that they are making progress and that there's still a lot more to come. Next slide. So again, the merger pulled in that SAM.gov system where you're creating an entity, you're reporting on your entity. It's also pulling in exclusions for entities. And we'll just kind of run through some of this capability. Next slide, Sharon. So again, the why are we changing? It's really to reduce the burden for users. It's to give you this toolkit that you can use where you have a lot of capability at your fingertips. Also, their new design, and this isn't something to be taken lightly. It complies with the 21st Century Integrated Digital Experience Act. So some of this was actually mandated, and there's a lot to be said about, especially from a web development perspective, of adhering to ADA compliance and making sure that there's that you're using best practices and user journey, user flow, and web techniques. So it was about time, in my opinion. And I think they'll continue to improve this using that agile development that they're using. Next slide, Sharon. So this is the basics. I think we've kind of beat this horse to death. Your single login now. All of your workspace information transitions over. Your entity registrations should be automatically added to your workspace. And you now need to sign in to do a lot of things on the site. Next slide. And this is basically just a lot of different bullets on the search filters. Again, they want a more compact and streamlined search experience. There's options that we've already reviewed. Now, federal users will now be required to request a role if they need access for official use only information. So that's a little bit different. And you know, we have to realize that from an industry perspective, this is changing a lot for us, but also from a federal perspective. So you'll see some potential headaches on that end as well, from a posting of data or from different information coming out, because it's not to be taken lightly that the whole U.S. federal organization uses this from their end to disseminate information and things like that. Next slide, Sharon. Entity information is, I mean, it's pretty basic.
Billy, you're out now. It looks like you're muted.
I was sorry, I just had some background noise outside of the house that somebody's banging around back there. So I wanted to make sure you guys weren't catching a lot of that. So the entity information, basically what it comes down to is you're signed in to search the entity. You're going to, really, best case scenario, you have the DUNS or the cage. I wouldn't expect you to have the UIE yet. But you can still search entities to do your basic research, right? There are some changes. They no longer post emails, contact information on the entity page. So if you're searching from a purely marketing standpoint, you'll have to use other resources to find that information. But here's the basic search statuses, and you have to remember that the government uses this search too. So it's got great value to both government and industry users. If I'm looking for certain companies and certain keywords with certain socioeconomic statuses, this may be a tool that I'm going to use to find potential teammates or to find and look at potential competition. Next slide. So the exclusions, we've all used the exclusion search before. I think for the most part, this is it's the one search you don't need a sign in the SAM.Gov integration and merger. So you're looking at your basic classification. Is it all, firm, individual? You can search based on federal organizations, exclusion type. So it's real, again, handy tool to look up if you're teaming partner or look up potential competition. It's all right there in the search, and this is the one. Remember, no sign in needed. Next slide. So here's the big change is the workspace. It's got a lot more capability. Your workspace will be unique depending on your roles and activities. And yeah, we will hit the roles management briefly here in a little bit. I'm not doing a deep dive on any certain part of the system, just because I wanted to give a good broad overview of the system as a whole. But if you do need help with roles management and looking at how to effectively do that, we are always here to assist. It's something we do often. But the workspace is bringing in new capability that gives you access to a lot of your different reporting and different entities all at one space. Next slide. And this is just me showing you where the help and the sign in buttons are. Yeah, the help tab is going to be important at first because you're going to want training, you're going to want different resources. Signing in, you're going to need to be signed into the system now. I don't think there's any way around it, unless you're just doing some broad contract opportunity searches, which is something I do often. But overall, for anything around an entity, anything around the old SAM, anything around that kind of search, you're going to be signed in. Next slide. So this is the new workspace. As you can see, I use myself as an example. You still have access to your downloads. You have access to your saved searches and opportunities that you're following. Unfortunately, I hate to say that when you follow an opportunity, you're still tracking it by a contract number and not by a contract name. But again, keep providing them with feedback. On every page, there's a button at the bottom that you can click to provide feedback. And if we keep drilling them with feedback that we want to follow by name, they'll change it. Because that's exactly what that's there for. It's a great resource for us as users to utilize in order to get the changes we want done. But you'll see you now have your entity registrations, you have your unique entity ID, your entity reporting, your user directory, and your system accounts. So you can do everything with search that you could before, but you're able to run your entity roles as well.
Hey, Billy, there is a question. Who should I reach out to directly for help on roles management?
We can help you with the local PTAG. I mean, if you have an issue with gaining entity administrator access, or if you have issue, and maybe a little bit further down, we'll answer your question. But I mean, assigning roles is super simple now in the workspace. It's definitely, I think, an improvement. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're doing it the correct way. Completely understand. So maybe it is your local PTAC that you're going to want to reach out to, just to ensure that you have everything right and correct. Next slide. And here's the vaunted the role assigning. So basically, in the workspace now, you can assign roles. Data entry administrator viewer. They've simplified the roles a little bit, which is it's nice, but at the same time, I could see where it causes some consternation. And then you have your different drop downs. So it's pretty clean. But at the same time, if you have questions, there is additional resource on Federal Service Desk. But if you want somebody to walk through it with you, then we're always a resource for this kind of thing as well. Next slide. Another big change is the ability to download your reps and certs. So what it means is basically, you're going to need, when you're bidding a contract, they ask for all kinds of reps and certs. You can either fill out that 12 pages, or you can try to make it simple. Now, when you're with an entity, you can basically, when you're looking at an entity registration, you can download their information, or you can download their reps and certs. So next slide. The information is top right corner, and you can also follow entities now. So you can actually follow them when they make a change to the entity. You'll get up. I mean, I could see why. I don't think your everyday user will use it a ton, but you can download their information. Now, again, it's going to give you their core data. It's going to give you their exclusions, POCs. Yeah, it's going to give you that basic data, but you're not going to get the contact information from the POC anymore. So that's no longer your go-to for looking up who to reach out to with some of these companies. Next slide. Now, when you want to go to their reps and search data, this is where it's a little bit of a change. So basically, on the left-hand side, you're clicking on the reps and search tab. Then you have the option to choose the current record or previous record. Then you have the option to download the FAR and DFAR or financial assistance. I think this is a neat change. It takes a little getting used to, but it's as easy as a couple clicks and you're downloading a PDF, and you got it, you're set. So it's pretty streamlined, like they said up front, the changes made. Next slide.
Billy,
Yes. Mm-hmm. Did you have a question, Jill?
I didn't unmute myself. I am so sorry, Billy.
No worries.
Yeah, but can I still log in with SAM.gov credentials to access the IAE system, or do I have to create an entirely new login profile for IAE?
Well, SAM.gov was really using login.gov before the merger. So if you have a login.gov ID, you're set. Now, if you haven't updated your registration or your login since before login.gov, then yes, you'll have some more work to do outside of that. But everything should port over. It shouldn't be an issue. They know who you are. They know your role. They know what you're doing. So that none of that should be an issue with the merger.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Here's where I think it's the important part. Help and resources. So you're going to need it if you're having issues. I prefer kind of a hunt and peck approach at first, just because I want to become familiar with the system, with the tasks I need to accomplish. But there's a ton of great resource out there, and to put this slide deck together, honestly, I've used a lot of it. So I know that it's good, it's solid, it's up to date. Some of it's not as complete as it could possibly be, but give it time, and those blanks will get filled in. But overall, when you click on the help tab, you now have all your different domains of help. You also have live chat, and you have different resources around that. Now, the incident live chat require your login.gov sign in, of course, but it is there as a resource. Next slide. And with each page, they have a full listing of help and resources. A lot of this will take you over to FSD, but overall, you can hit the help topics, and it's per each domain, so it's specific. That's the other thing to note about the feedback button. So if I'm on the contract opportunities domain, I want to give feedback with the feedback button on contract opportunities. It helps them sort that feedback so they can most efficiently prioritize it. So just keep that in mind when you're using that feedback link. Next slide. This is the full FSD knowledge base. So you can see they've kind of thought through a lot. They want to give you information on contract opportunities, data services, the workspace, federal hierarchy, fraud, entity reporting, login.gov, Freedom of Information Act requests, assistance listings, contract data, SAM Gov search. So there's a huge knowledge base here for you, for your basic help docs, your quick start guides, your user guides, things of that nature. Again, they may not be as complete as we'd like them at this point, but they're there. And it's a great start when you're trying to navigate this new system. Next slide, please. So this is another really useful tool if you're a power user. It's the GSA Integrated Award Environment Community, and they post out upcoming changes and they preview changes. They have stakeholder meetings. They give you a huge, just a great wealth of information on what's coming up, why is it coming, when's it coming. But little did I know before this, the GSA also has a YouTube channel. So if you ever get bored of watching cats playing pianos or whatever, check out the GSA YouTube channel. It's definitely a resource outside of just reading your docs and going through your user guides. But the last bullet, probably the most important, your local PTAC. We navigate the system every day, and we tend to know the resources. We can give you the number to the Federal Service Desk if you need it. We can sit on a call with you if you need it. We're here to assist and help you manage all this information, because it really is a necessary toolkit for you to use and really give yourself every advantage that you need when you're trying to do business with the federal government. Next slide, Sharon. That's unfortunately the demo portion. I don't know if I could run a demo right now, given the capabilities. I'm actually still in the dark. But instead of that, do we have any additional questions that I can answer kind of just off the cuff?
Let's see if we get some questions in the chat. I know that you would do it if you could. You would totally be doing it in the dark.
Well, I think that it's just such a cool capability. So for instance, I was putting together some information for this presentation earlier, and I was kind of just messing around. So I typed in 4th of July, and I found all of the awardees for the 4th of July fireworks display in DC. Information like that is it's readily available at our fingertips. I will tell you one thing that you can do on your own as a demo. If you go into the contract opportunities piece and under notice type, you select special notice. What you can do is in the keyword search, you can type in industry day. And as we start coming back to in-person events, you're going to want to know what industry days are in your area. So what I did, I ran an industry day for Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, and Kentucky. And then you sort by updated date. And just a wealth of these industry days are popping up now, kind of indicating that, okay, things are starting to normalize, at least the new normal. But those kinds of searches on, okay, what's going on in my neck of the woods? It's a great tool to use, and it's underutilized when to a lot of folks that think it's just used for RFQs and RFPs, when there's just so much more information there to uncover that may really be helpful to your organization.
I don't see any additional questions coming through right now. I want to say I really appreciate your time and your just willingness to just keep powering through despite the power outage.
It's all about adapting and conquering.
Right.
Yeah, I wanted to prepare for it, but there's just no preparing for that, unfortunately. But I do want to let everybody know, one of the most important pieces of information in the slide deck It's my contact information. It's on the last slide. It's on the first slide. Never hesitate to reach out. I'm more than willing to help or point you in the right direction for help, because this is going to take some getting used to. It is an agile development environment, so it will continuously change. And the great thing about change is it's based on feedback from us, so it's seen as improvement. But at the same time, if I have to look for a button to do a task for a half hour, not a fun feeling. So hopefully we can help kind of help you through those changes and processes.
And I see a comment here regarding the roles management. It says, thank you. That means you, Jill, that I'll be assisting with the roles management. I don't know that much about it at the SBA. I think that PTAC is a little bit more seasoned on which roles to be able to assign to people.
Well, it depends, right? Is this an internal business question or is it an external business question? Because if it's internal, as far as who in my company should have this role, we can explain to you the different capabilities of each role. But then again, like Sharon was saying, we guide and we advise, we never execute. So we can't tell you that that Susie and Bobby should both be data viewers. We have to be able to educate you enough so that you make that decision on your own internally. But there's plenty of great documentation on what the roles do. I would have done a little mapping. It's pretty cut and dry, the way they have it set up now. Again, if you have any questions, my contact information is there. I can definitely get you some great resources from the Federal Service Desk on each role and the capability. And it is an important thing, though. I don't discount the roles management piece of this one bit, because we were just talking earlier. You want to have at least two entity administrators. That way, if one senior leadership gets hit by a bus tomorrow, you still have somebody that can manage the company's affairs in SAM, because it is that vital to your business in the government space. At the same time, you don't want to have 10, because you really want to make sure it's a key position, trusted position, to have that much power over your entity. Because remember, all federal work stems from you being registered in SAM.gov, having an updated entity, complying with all of the federal acquisition regulations that you signed up for, and the DFARS if you're doing business in the DoD, and being honest about your registration and the data in it. So, this is no small stuff when it comes to your entity and how it's being reported to the federal government.
We're getting some more login.gov questions.
Mhm.
On a second. Do I need to create a login at login.gov? And do I need to associate with an entity? Yes, right? You need to get those.
Yeah, if you definitely want to have a login.gov account. Now you can create a login.gov to look at the site and and search and things like that, save searches and download searches without being associated with a specific entity. But now if you want to do anything with a company that you're with, then you definitely need to be associated with that entity.
And in order to even set up your registration in SAM, you need the login.gov account.
Correct. Right.
Yes. So that here's another comment question. So that I understand better, our company should have one main login.gov account for our company, and then assign roles within that entity account, and then assign roles within that entity account.
Well, now everybody will have their own separate login.gov account. And then when you're assigning roles or requesting roles, the entity administrator then gives the role. to, Susie or Bobby. So there shouldn't just be one login.gov account for the whole company. Don't do that. You have a login.gov account for each employee, and then they're assigned roles.
So it sounds like the one that's going to be the majority, doing the majority of the work inside of SAM, maybe they should have the primary role to give to the rest of, and that's going to be a business decision, correct?
Correct. That's
that.
your entity administrator. And in order to become an entity administrator, you actually have to have a notarized letter that says I can be the administrator for this entity. So it's no small deal. And also that entity administrator, remember, that may be the role where they request state issued verification of ID, as that extra layer of security. So you definitely want to think that through. But here on the PTAC side, I mean, our role would be giving you, okay, here's the capability of each role within SAM.gov, and here's what they can and can't do. Here's how you would assign a role, and then get login.gov set up, and we'd help you with the process and the overall information, but we really can't make that decision. We want to make sure that you're the most well-informed client we have, but then the actual execution is on you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Billy. I don't see any further questions in the chat right now. Okay, if I don't see anything else coming through, I just want to thank everyone for participating today. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we will have 2 webinar trainings in July regarding cybersecurity and how that impacts your business and federal contracting. So we do have a presenter lined up. We're just getting the details of what each presentation will cover. So that is coming. I hope that all of you have a wonderful 4th of July weekend. And thank you so much, Billy, for hanging in there and getting us through the presentation.
Yeah, I thanks everybody for your time. Yeah, my apologies for all of the mishap and comedy of errors. We will get through it, and we'll have more information on this upcoming, because it is a changing environment, and we will do deep dives more into different domains. I know people are always interested in the contract opportunities piece, how to find federal opportunity, how to set up searches for industry days, things like that. So definitely stay tuned, and we'll get more content put together for that, and I'll get a generator in the meantime. So
okay. Yeah, the one time you need it.
Yeah.
So the question about cybersecurity, is it related to CMMC? Yes, it is. Yes.